So now that my yard is all cleaned up, I went out and picked up my flowers and mulch, and I'm ready to start planting. Before you start planting, it's really important to figure out where you have a lot of sun and where you have shade around your yard, so that you know when you pick out the flowers for a particular area, they'll survive. My plan is to have little bursts of colors as you walk along the trail, so I'm going to plant really colorful flowers along the edges of the beds. And I'm going to be very careful to look at the information on the flowers to see what needs full sun and part shade, and how to care for the plants. When you're planting flowers in the ground, you want to start with a good gardening soil. This Miracle-Gro has a slow release plant food, and it's made specifically for flowers and vegetables. And you want to make sure you have your tools and gloves, and I'm using this pad to kneel on, and some water right at hand. I'm also going to use a shovel to dig deeper holes and to get through this hard Georgia clay. So you want to dig a hole that's deeper and wider than the pot so that the top part of the soil is level with the ground. Then you're going to put a little gardening soil in the hole so that the plant has a good base to grow on. If you have a big pot, sometimes it's hard to get the plant out because the roots have dug in. You can gently step on it and roll it a little bit, and it'll come out a lot easier. Before you put the plant in the ground, you want to loosen up the roots. So just rub around the bottom and the sides so that the roots will spread out in the dirt. Then put gardening soil all around the sides and over the top of the plant. Then you're going to want to cover the dirt around the plant with something like mulch or pine straw or rocks to help keep the moisture in and to help protect the roots from the sun. This plant is called lantana and is actually a perennial, which means it grows back every year. So I'm hoping to get it again next year. But it takes full sun and it grows up to be about 36 inches. But I'm going to keep it trimmed because I want the plants along the trail to stay low to the ground. After you cover the base with mulch, you're going to soak the plant with water right at the base. And you're going to water the plant every day for a couple of days until it gets established. After that, you want to follow the care instructions on the plant to find out how much you need to water it. In this shaded area, I'm planting begonias, salvia, and impatiens. I'm using this bird bath as a planter, so instead of gardening soil, I'm going to use potting soil. The potting soil have enough nutrients and moisture control for plants that grow in pots. And since this bird bath has no drainage, I'm going to be careful not to water it too much. I'll just be checking it to make sure the topsoil stays moist. Here's a look at my potted shade plants. For the seeding area in the center of my yard, I want to have big, dramatic, colorful flowers overflowing this large planter. I had this dwarf evergreen in the planter all winter. I want to keep it in the area, so I'm going to transplant it into another pot. Okay, so first I want to start by adding some height and drama. So I'm going to put this ornamental grass right in the center of the planter. Then I'm adding some bright red and blue verbena around the sides. These plants take full sun and they are annuals. And by the way, annual plants are plants that have to be planted every year. They won't grow back again the next season. I'm also going to sprinkle in a little lobelia to flow down the edges and shoot up in between the flowers. Lobelia is a part shade plant, but since it's sort of underneath the flowers, I think it'll be okay. I'll see what happens. And finally, I'm going to add just a little bit of lantana just because I want some yellow. I want a good combination of all the colors of flowers that I have in the yard in this piece. So in a couple of days, it'll start getting really full and start spilling over the edge, and it's going to be beautiful. I also freshened up my recycled conch shell and my pots on the deck. So after planting flowers all day and laying a fresh layer of mulch, I was finally able to get a subtle burst of color throughout my entire garden. Coming up in the next video, I'll be decorating the yard for my son's graduation party.